Alright everyone, as Maxine Waters gets finally a little bit of flack from people for inciting violence, specifically the National Guard shooting the other night, which it happened right after she made her comments about taking to the streets if they get the wrong verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial. By the way, the trial judge actually coming out and calling it disgraceful. Actually, so the judge in the case is calling out Maxine Waters too. That matters. Generally speaking, judges are very, very reluctant to delve into anything that smacks of politics in that manner. Certainly, words by politicians. Maxine Waters may actually have overstepped a little bit too far. Might end up having a few Democrats throw her under the bus over that. They should. She's kind of vestigiality anyways, and she almost fucking 80 years old, and she looks like she's a 100-year-old, muskrat with rabies or something. Anyway, the police, according to Maxine Waters and Al Sharpton and all the other usual grifters, AOC, are racist. You see, they say, well, black people make up 13% of the population, but I can't remember, it's like 40% of those shot by cops are black, or 30% or something, so it's disproportionate, so that makes them racist, of course. Now, I was thinking to myself, well, over 90% of those shot are male, so this means obviously the police are sexist against men. They're a bunch, somehow, even though most cops are also men, they're misandrists. Female cops, when they shoot a person, most of the time it's going to be a male as well. And you'll notice something. It's interesting. The correlation is more strong. 90% is a lot more than 30 or 40%. The correlation, 50% of the population, but over 90% of all of those shot by the cops, whether fatal or not. The truth is that's because women have a tendency not to commit the sort of crimes that would typically lead to the police shooting them. Of course, we could carry this statement logically forward another step, but then it would have to be an alt-tech exclusive, because it would be a verboten statement. You see, FBI crime statistics are forbidden because of what they actually reveal about crime statistics. Now, of course, I'm talking about the fact that it's urbanites, by and large. City dwellers. The correlation with mass shootings especially is very, very strong. It doesn't tend to happen out in the middle of nowhere. Out in the middle of nowhere, the crime, you get people, meth labs and shit. Cousin love, incest and stuff. Or you get occasionally a Ted Kaczynski, a primitivist. We're all worried when Varg starts buying a lot of electronic watches, then you've got to look out. He's moved on past arson, perhaps, as he snaps. Mifarog sales go down and he just loses it. I'm not saying he would do that. By the way, he doesn't really have much of a sense of humor for such topics. I don't know why. He is kind of a funny dude. He's Gandalf, basically. But no, the police are sexist. Over 90% of those shot by the cops are male. That's a much stronger correlation than race. I would think that that'd be meaningful. Where's the Congressional Men's Caucus to talk about how we need reform for the police? We need to have sensitivity training, and they need to be told, well, just because the person's got testosterone, a Y chromosome, doesn't mean that they're more violent than people with boobs. So you've got to be sensitive to this. We need to give them mandatory 6 weeks of sensitivity training for men's rights. We need to get some MRAs in there, actually, to talk to them. Now, of course, just so that nobody gets the wrong impression, I am being facetious. I know it's difficult to tell these days. Sometimes people make arguments like that and they actually mean them. Like, for instance, they'll say that the police are racist because of crime shooting statistics. They will never address the race or demographics of people who are not cops who do the shooting. It's okay to have the boys in blue as a discrete group that you segregate off in order for statistical analysis. Don't do that with other groups. It's not a good idea if you're on YouTube, certainly. It's very, very interesting now, isn't it? By the way, you can probably tell I have definitely had my caffeine for the morning. The Derek Chauvin trial, in specifically, here's an example of potentially a negligent death, but not a racially motivated one. We have literally not one shred of evidence that Derek Chauvin has a racist bone in his body. Despite that fact, because he happens to be white, and the person who died happened to be black, automatically a racial motive was dreamed up. This never happens when you have an instance of a black cop, or a black person, or a Hispanic person, or whatever, shoot someone who's white. The immediate gut reaction, the immediate knee-jerk reaction by the MSM and the Twitter sphere and stuff is never, well, it must be racially motivated, it was a hate crime. No, most often that is completely ignored. Most often, even sometimes, when a person is clearly motivated, and they'll be like, they're white, like, I can't remember the name of that other shooter from like a couple of weeks ago. clearly was motivated by religious zealotry. That was clearly the motive in the case. Despite that fact, people pretended that it had something to do with whiteness. And this has happened over and over again. We have that dude, I guess the postal shooter, there was a brony or something. And it's funny, because have you seen some of the MSM stories about bronies over the last couple of days? Yeah, 4chan's full of it right now. Instead of fixating on the fact that it tends to be a degenerated perversion and people are like, well, they're dressing up in a fetishistic manner. Instead, they said, well, there's a correlation between My Little Pony culture and Nazis, white supremacy. I'm thinking to myself, my God, what a logical stretch, number one, and what a lack of actual statistical analysis, number two. But with crime stats, those are meticulously documented. And the proof is in the pudding. The vast majority of those that are victimized by the police are men. Very, very interesting how that is consistently omitted. There's a war on men. We need a men's caucus. We need sensitivity training. We need to be protected from the evil sexist police that are just trying to kill all men. That's about all. Peace out.